Good morning, good morning, good morning. Excellent. Good morning to all of you here in person. And all of you on YouTube, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church at Pittsburgh. It is Sunday, April 7th of 2024. I am Reverend Dr. Kate R. Walker. I use the she, her pronouns, and I'm honored to serve as the minister of this beloved community. For those with visual disability, I am a middle-aged, light-skinned female with light brown hair and a bob haircut. I wear glasses, and today I'm wearing a purple dress with purple and green leaves painted onto it and a purple and green stole. And I am delighted to be working with me today is my beloved colleague, Reverend Sunshine Wolf, who we'll hear from later, but is already well known in this community as our regional staff person with Unitarian Universalist Association. You are all welcome here, my beloved. You are welcome here in person or on YouTube now or in the future. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are a multi-faith religious community where we are all growing together in diversity and celebrating and questioning the universe and each other. And just as you are in your wholeness and in your beauty, you are welcome here. If this is your very first time with us in person, please be in touch with us by making a connection, introducing yourself to the welcome desk, which is right here in the garden lobby. And if you are on YouTube, please check out our website and send us an email. We'd love to know who you are, introduce yourself. We have lots of ways for you to start getting connected, including today we have a social hour following service. Due to the presence of the sun today, maybe not tomorrow, but today, we are going to be outside in the garden for social hour. But I do want to make sure you go downstairs. There's a beautiful new art exhibit that's just been posted, so it's really, really lovely. And of course, if you're online, you are welcome to come by the church, give us a call. We'll make arrangements if you would like to meet with us in person. We are an active community. There is a lot going on here. And I just want to do a couple things to raise your awareness. On Saturday, April 20th at 1 p.m., we're going to be having a celebration of life for Muriel Weeks, who's a longtime member of this community. And that's, again, at 1 p.m. on Saturday, April 20th. And there will be a gathering with family and friends at Longwood at 4 o'clock that same day. Now, I also would like you to put on your calendar, like right now, Friday, May 10th at 6 p.m., because the auction is back. We are so excited. So this is the 2024 Fantastic Fantasy Auction. I've been told, and I believe these people, that this is the best social event and fundraiser of the year. And so I'm delighted. You can buy your tickets in advance. They're just $10. We're accepting donations of your special talents and your skills, your services. If you have particularly fabulous unused items you would like to donate. We're looking for foodie, dinners, cooking classes, yard work, yoga, massages, lessons, artwork, themed baskets, tickets for sports, cultural events, gift certificates, you name it, we're looking for it. Please check out at the social hour outside. There'll be some folks that can help orient you about how you can support this wonderful event. I also want to do what we call a content warning for today's worship service. Reverend Sunshine and I are going to be presenting some sensitive and potentially harmful material on clergy misconduct today. And I know some of you may have experienced clergy misconduct at some point in your history, or misconduct or abuse in your life. And we really want you to take care of yourself. That is the number one thing. Take care of yourself. And if you need to step out, that's fine. And if you would like to reach out to me after the service and we can arrange for an appointment, I welcome that. But I want to make sure that you are in a place where you are safe. And if this turns out not to be the place this morning, please just step out and take care of yourself. Gratitude to all of you for being here this morning. I know some of you are out searching for the sun for tomorrow's big event. And I will say, I did announce that I was going to go to Erie, and you're welcome to join me, but apparently the sun is not going to be in Erie tomorrow. They're expecting cloud cover, so I may not be going. But the good news is we have Reverend Sunshine right here with us today, right? I invite you to take a deep breath and arrive in body and spirit. Let us feel connected to one another in this time and place, in this sanctuary. Let us feel connected to other Unitarian Universalists throughout Pittsburgh and our country and our world. Let us feel connected to all those in houses of worship throughout the city and this country, all those seeking connection with the divine, with that which you hold as most valued. We turn to our chalice lighting, the symbol of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. As this chalice is lit, may its flame burn bright in our hearts, inspiring courage in moments of doubt. May its flame burn bright in our minds when we see new pathways into the future. May this chalice burn bright in our bodies when we feel moments of humility and we embrace that moment. Jen just getting her reading glasses.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jan Carlino, and I would like to read a piece, and it is entitled Co-Regulation.
No, that's later.
Oh,
This is the principles.
oh, excuse me. This is my first time.
You're doing great.
And I'm getting guidance. Let us start with our reading our principles. When you are ready, we covenant and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependence of all existence, of which we are a part, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions, that accountability, dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions.
Please rise as you're able in body and spirit as we sing our opening hymn, 103 for all the saints.
Before the world confessed.
Nope. We're not singing this one, are we, Sunshine? Nope. We're not singing this one. You know why we're not singing this one? Sunshine knows why we're not singing this one. Because this hymn is all about patriarchy and power. Guess what we're not doing anymore? We're interrupting patriarchy and power, aren't we? Yes. Are we interrupting patriarchy and power? We are. Yes, we're singing new songs with new messages that are about completely different relationships, aren't we? Yeah. Wow, right. In your hymnal, not in your hymnal, that's a point, not in your insert, as well as your order service, we are singing Swimming to the Other Side because that is a whole different message.
Swimming to the other side. Y'all are fabulous. I love how you roll with us causing a little bit of trouble midway through hymns. It's good practice for disrupting out in the world, right? Yeah? How many of you feel good about disrupting things out in the world? Still a growing edge? Some folks enjoy it, I know. So I got a story for today. It's called The Rabbit Listened. So how many of you have ever spent a lot of time making something that you were really, really proud of? Maybe it was the perfect quiche, or maybe it was a giant Lego building or a sand castle, and everything's exactly the way you want it, and then boom, catastrophe happens. The dog comes in and knocks the quiche on the floor and it's just everywhere, or the water came in and knocked over the sand castle, or, you went to the bathroom and accidentally ran into the Legos, and you know what happens then. Anybody have that experience? Like you made something you're really proud of? It's just no fun, right? A lot of feelings when you spend so much time working on something and then it just falls apart. And that's what our story is about today. It is about a young kiddo named Taylor, pronouns unknown, and Taylor decided to build something new, something special, out of blocks. And it ended up being this really tall, giant castle. And it looked fabulous and wonderful. It was something amazing, and Taylor was just so proud. You know how they're feeling, right? Just like, yeah, this is awesome and great. But then out of nowhere, a flock of birds come flying through and knock the giant castle over. It was unexpected, wasn't fair. And things came crashing down. Now, the chicken, anybody make a good chicken noise? There we go. The chicken was the first to notice. And the chicken said, oh, cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's sit down and talk about it. Tell me everything you're feeling. But Taylor didn't feel like talking. And so the chicken just kind of clucked off. Next came the bear. Give me a good bear sound. Okay, it's a bear. You can do better than that. There we go. And the bear said, I bet you feel angry. Roar! But Taylor didn't feel like shouting. And so the bear kind of grumbly left. And then the elephant knew just what to do. What's a good elephant noise? Close enough. I can fix this, elephant said. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering. So guess what happened? The elephant left. Right? Well, next came the hyena. Any good hyena noises? Not bad. And the hyena said, let's laugh all about it. But Taylor didn't feel like laughing. And the ostrich said, whoop, and stuck its head in the ground. Let's hide and pretend like nothing happened. And the kangaroo said, what a mess. Let's just throw it all away. And the snake, any good snake noises? Yeah, said, let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing that either. Taylor didn't really feel like doing anything, so eventually all of the animals left Taylor alone, until Taylor was all by themselves. You ever have that where you're having all the feelings, but everybody's coming up with things that just aren't helpful, and you just feel all alone? Yeah. So in the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice, sitting there, just kind of wallowing, Rabbit. And Rabbit just kind of quietly moved closer and closer, hopped up, until Taylor could feel a warm body. And together they sat in silence, and Taylor said, please stay with me. And the rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted and laughed. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide and to throw everything away and to just ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." And the new plan was even bigger than the last. Sometimes what we need from each other is just to be here for each other, right? May we all be present together.
So we are going to be singing our children after class. Somehow got dropped out of the order of service, but I can trust our song leaders can guide us. It's pretty simple.
Peace, shalom. 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 Peace, shalom.
I am absolutely delighted to welcome into our sanctuary the Reverend Aaron Jones. Aaron and I have, Reverend Aaron, excuse me, we're formal now. Yeah, we gotten to know each other through our relationship building with Penn, and at that time you were working over at the Hot Metal Bridge. Yeah, but now you have a new job we're going to hear a little bit about, but more than anything, Reverend Aaron is here to tell us about Bethel AME, who is Share the Plate for the month of April.
Thank you, Reverend Kate. Yes, I am Pastor Aaron Jones. I'm delighted to be here with you all. Had I known you were singing Emma's Revolution, I would have brought my Peace, Salam, Shalom shirt that I have from my protest days. But I am so glad to be with you and proud and humbled to represent our siblings over at Bethel AME Church. Like Pastor Kate said, Reverend Kate, I was the pastor at Hot Metal Bridge Faith Community, and during that time, I'm also ordained in the Lutheran Church, and during that time, our ecumenical relations committee with the Lutheran Synod, the Lutheran region, reached out to our AME siblings. That came out of a commitment of our national body to repair relationships with the AME Church after the shooting in Charleston, South Carolina. The shooter of that tragedy was born and raised and confirmed in the Lutheran Church, and killed 8 people after engaging in Bible study with them. And in the wake of that, we took a hard look at ourselves and about the role that racism plays in our predominantly white denomination. And we said we need to listen, be with our AME colleagues. And so how that manifested itself here in this synod led by our bishop, Kurt Cusserow, was to just reach out and to say, let's be in relationship. I just love, in my tradition, we would call that a Holy Spirit moment, where can we sit and be with you? And through that sitting and being with the AME clergy in this area, we met Reverend Dale Snyder, who had just started at Bethel AME and was just beginning to uncover the story of what happened to that church in the 1950s here in Pittsburgh. Bethel AME, as you see a brief history in your program, and I know many of you engaged with our table talk, so you heard the story in full. I'll give just a brief. Founded in 1808, Bethel AME was the first and then largest AME church, African American church here in Pittsburgh throughout its history, and at its peak had over 3,000 members. They had spent years building what they call their citadel on the hill, their light shining on the hill, this beautiful, huge church building that they had scrimped and saved and poured their heart and soul into. And then in the 1950s, as urban redevelopment was taking hold in the city claimed that land under eminent domain in order to build the civic arena. Pastor Snyder likes to say they took our church in order to make a playground for white people. And they did not pay a fair amount, pennies on the dollar, and made Bethel then move up into the Upper Hill district, while, of course, not investing in that community at all. So as Reverend Snyder was hearing this story from his members, as he was uncovering the details of it, we recognize that not a single white community of faith spoke up for Bethel. The Catholic Church kitty corner from where Bethel stood was able to remain in place because the white city council member attended there. But no one spoke up on behalf of Bethel. As we heard this story, we said, we hear this story now. We can walk with you now. We can do something now. And so over the years that we have been walking and talking with churches, communities of faith like you all, we have built a movement that has now held the city accountable, has held the Penguins accountable, and they have now gifted back not the exact location, but a prime location now in that Lower Hill district, where plans are now being developed so that Bethel can reclaim that space, reclaim that light on the hill, and be a place where not only they can be disciples again there, but they can also have affordable housing and invest in the community, invest in young childhood education, and they just have a whole lot of plans in place. So that's where you now come in. Your Pass the Share the Plate initiative will be going into that reparations the financial piece to build up what they hope to build now. And so that is, again, over 50 units of affordable housing, early childhood education center, other key community involvement and resources so that the Hill can again be a vibrant place. And Bethel AME can be part of that. Building up of that community. It also goes to building up the community where they are now in the Upper Hill. If you have driven through the Upper Hill, you have seen the blight and the abandoned spaces. They hope to build up things there. So that's what your financial contributions, your partnership, your listening and hearing what our neighbors need will go to throughout this month. So thank you so much for hearing this story, for listening, and now for acting and walking with Bethel as they continue on this journey. Lutherans are in it for the long haul. We're so glad to invite you and to be partners with you as we continue to do this. Thank you.
Our religious community is made up of volunteers and staff, creating and hosting a variety of programs. We rely upon your financial support. In addition to the collection plate, you can donate by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the directions. Please check the end of the order of service for more directions. All donations are shared 50-50 with Bethel AME Reparation Project unless otherwise donated or otherwise designated. The offering will now be gratefully received to support the work, wonder, and witness of our religious community.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you. I invite you to take a deep breath. I know each of us we're holding sorrows, broken hearts, disappointments, fear and anxiety, and we're also holding joys, celebrations. Our hearts expand to embrace this all. Please join me in a few moments of silence and meditation and personal prayer. Spirit of life, fill our hearts with your essence and your beauty. As our blood courses through our bodies, let us feel the source of life and love. May the breath of love fill our hearts and lungs. With each breath, may we remember the holiness of a moment. May we reach out and have a sense of the divine in life and in each other. May the God of many names, who has been with us throughout the ages, fill us with compassion and empathy. May this lead to a greater sense of justice and the expansion of love throughout the universe, and equity for all ages and all races and genders. As our hearts break over war in Ukraine, over atrocities in Gaza and Israel, as our hearts break in countries around the world, let us breathe in the beauty of life and the holiness of each moment. And know that our words matter, our actions matter, our love matters. May we each commit to healing ourselves and each other. One breath, one word, one step at a time. Blessed be. Amen. May it be so. I invite you to rise as you're able and take a breath in body and spirit as we turn to 1009. It's a meditation on breathing. We will sing through the melody a couple times, and then we'll branch out. Find the part that speaks to you. Sing as you can and you're able. All voices are welcome.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
It is so good to be with you this morning, my beloved, and I can tell right now the service is going to go a bit over, so please bear with us in time. Just another few moments of your life. Back in 1994, I finally applied to seminary, and my family all affirmed my choice. They said it's long overdue. But then some of my new friends in my new seminary, upon hearing my story, wondered why I would want to be a minister. In particular, why would I want to be a UU minister? Some of you may remember I grew up Unitarian Universalist and also a preacher's kid. My father was a UU minister. My stepmother is a UU minister. So I grew up with more knowledge than most about what it takes to be a minister, about late night board meetings and hospital visits and choir conflicts. And board meetings and board meetings and board meetings and finance meetings in erratic, long work hours. And I learned early about the need for and the power of humility in ministry, which is our theme of the month. So I invite you into that reflection. How has humility helped you? I also learned about weird boundaries as a preacher's kid. Can clergy be friends with members of the church? Can we vacation together, members of the church and the minister? Can we have friendship between children and members of the church, children in the church? Can partners be friends with members of the church? It is all really quite fuzzy, my friends. So then what happens when things go terribly, terribly wrong? As it happened with my minister, my father, who was resigned from multiple churches and fired from one. And as I share my personal story with you, I ask you simply to listen and bear witness as I build my courage to share this vulnerable place in my heart. My humble hope in sharing this is that you may have places that you too need courage to speak of your stories from your lives, and perhaps to help guide and inspire you to speak truth, to recognize the importance of boundaries, both firm and permeable, fuzzy boundaries, and perhaps heal whatever broken places there are in your lives. Let me begin with the hard part. My father engaged in egregious ministerial misconduct. He got fired from one church after he refused to resign. He resigned from other churches when he realized that he no longer had the trust of the congregation. His misconduct was engaging in multiple sexual relationships with members of his church. With some excellent therapists in my life, I learned to recognize my father's brilliant mind, his damaged emotional heart, his incapacity for self-reflection and control, his continuing harm upon others, including his family. I also was able to affirm that he loved me very much. He loved my brothers, he loved our mothers, but he could not love himself. There was just too much damage, too much family damage. He was born in 1935, after all, and in those years, therapy was not encouraged, particularly for ministers and particularly for male ministers. Actually discouraged, in fact. My brothers and I have all pledged to one another that we will stop the damage at our generation. We will heal ourselves and not pass on any more harm to our children. I grew up with all of this in my head, in my heart, and in my little body. It didn't help that when I was a young adult, my UU minister also engaged in multiple sexual relationships with members of the church, quite openly, in fact. Maybe that's why I never considered ministry as a profession until it slapped me upside the head back in 1994. And it didn't leave me any room for doubt about what seminary I was going to attend. There was only one. And then it beautifully, and I'm grateful, led me to one wonderful ministry after another. Sadly, though, each of the congregations I have either worked for or served as a minister have misconduct in their history, including this one. So let me step back and ask, what is clergy misconduct? This is a definition that we have been working with on a national level. It is clergy misconduct when any person in a ministerial role of leadership or pastoral counseling, that includes clergy, religious or lay, violates boundaries, emotional, sexual, or financial, etc., with a congregant, client, employee, student, staff, member, that is, adult, teenager, or child, in a professional relationship. Sexual activity or sexualized behavior is a boundary violation. That is clergy misconduct. I, as a next generation of minister, am committed to stopping the cycle of clergy abuse in our congregations, as well as supporting the healing from our past abuse, which stays in the system for generations. My congregations that I have served or worked for, from Fremont, California, to Denver, Colorado, to Meadville, Pennsylvania, to Alexandria, Virginia, I have all experienced clergy misconduct, as in sexual misconduct, bullying, financial mismanagement, broken pastoral confidences, and plagiarized sermons. Here in Pittsburgh specifically, because I know your minds are all about to explode with curiosity. 2 different clergy, to the best of our knowledge, there may be more, and they are both deceased. And I'm going to name them so that you don't engage in unsubstantiated sleuthing. The 2 that we're aware of: Irving Murray, who served in this church from March of 1944 to January of 1961. He was here for a long time for a man who did not want to live in Pittsburgh. He had severe alcoholism, debts with families, friends, and parishioners, most of which were never repaid. He left this church with the wife of the board chair, and that new wife in his new ministry in Baltimore was quite miserable, which she shared upon his death. But even Reverend Murray knew that he was a workaholic and in trouble, and himself quite miserable human being. The second that we're aware of is Jim Hobart. He served this church in 1975 and 1980. He just died a little over a year ago. He faced dwindling attendance during his ministry, financial losses, a vote of no confidence, and then resigned. Reverend Hobart was depressed and having affairs with members of the church. And I want to share that Reverend Hobart, or Jim, to me, was one of my mentors. I have a photo of him in my office, along with his second wife, Nan, at my ordination in Denver, as they led the laying on of hands as part of the blessing at my ordination. And it's because of my friendship with Jim Hobart that I knew before I came here that he had had affairs while he was serving here, and he knew my father. Jim shared that while he was here, he was deeply depressed and he was grieving over the death of a very young daughter in a horrible accident for which he was responsible. His marriage at that time did not survive his grief or his sexual misconduct. Jim was deeply shamed by his actions that took place here. And he did his best to go on to a successful career in ministry, mentoring many young ministers and ensuring the health and the wholeness of our Unitarian Universalist Association. He was able to do this because he was committed to healing his own wounds and to doing no further harm upon others. And it's because of my ministries and mentors such as Jim Hobart that my commitment to ending the cycle of abuse has only deepened in my ministry. I'm deeply committed to removing the layers of shame that is associated with clergy abuse and misconduct for the congregations, for the victims, and the abusers. I actively and aggressively promote self-care for clergy, including therapy, taking time off, having clergy support groups. An important side note here that I want to make sure you're not missing is that just about any career, particularly though teachers and nurses and health aides and doctors and even administrators and lawyers and sports players need to engage in self-care. We need to maintain our healthy boundaries to avoid burnout, and burnout brings on resentment and anger and depression and alcohol and drug abuse and relationship and family abuse. And when we're burned out, we have a tendency to start coming up with excuses for our bad behavior and rationales for unhealthy boundaries and abuse upon ourselves and each other. So I want to make sure you all hear that as we think about our humility in life. And as part of my deepened commitment to ending clergy misconduct, I also have been serving as an advocate for those who file a complaint against religious professionals with the UUA, because those victims, I can relate to them. And when they hear my story, they know I get it. I am also a healthy boundaries trainer for clergy and church staff. Reverend Sunshine has been my partner in that for many, many years. And it also helps me when I name my own story, not just about my father, but what happened when I fell in love with a member of my church. Yeah. Having learned firsthand about the danger and the harm that can be done when engaging in clergy misconduct, I was adamant that I was always going to engage in transparency and firm boundaries and truth-speaking with my congregations. But soon after moving to Meadville in 1998 and taking up my very first settlement, much members of my church were adamant that they needed to get me married. They thought I would stay longer. It was well-placed love. I understand that. And then I did start to fall in love with a member of the church. For months and months and months, I watched my emotions to see what was going to happen. I reached out to the UU Ministers Association, and at that time, I happened to be serving on the executive committee, so I was surrounded by 10 fabulous, very experienced clergy who really knew what they were doing. I reached out to colleagues all over the place. And then one day, I finally couldn't take it anymore, and I invited the member on a walk with our dogs, and I spoke my truth. And I am so, so grateful that he immediately responded that the feelings were mutual. And I immediately responded to saying, "Great, I can't be your minister anymore. You need to resign from the church." Yeah, that's a hard way to start a relationship. I ended up sending a letter to the entire congregation saying, "You should know this has happened," which meant that within 24 hours, the entire city of Meadville knew what was going on. And we were married about a year later. And I did stay longer. I did. They were right. Yes, love happens in congregations with clergy and congregants. It's rare. The rules have actually changed now with the Ministers Association and the UUA, when one party must actually leave the church, the minister or the congregant. That power dynamic relationship has to end, and then there has to be a waiting period about the truth of the love. Is it a love that sticks, or is it just a passing fancy? Yeah. Mark, my best friend, and I have been married for over 23 years now. I am so grateful to have had my colleagues at my side to make sure that no harm was done to that congregation. As denominations, big and small, have been hitting the headlines with clergy misconduct and sexual abuse, our country has been quaking from these revelations that are so important and so difficult. And part of the problem that has been happening with that is the cover-up of those stories, the cover-up. And it is so important to be naming what is happening. And it's important to name what are the influences that lead to clergy misconduct. We recognize the importance of the humility and how it plays in all of our lives, because one thing we have to recognize with clergy in particular, because of our big egos, is that we need humility, because any one of us can unintentionally cross a boundary and do harm. Unintentionally and intentionally. So we name these stories about how it has happened, but we also name how we can prevent it, and the success stories of how congregations have healed, including this one, and how healthy they are today. This is who we are today in the next generation of UU clergy, as we become better in alignment with our values of who we are. I leave the next piece to Reverend Sunshine. Take a deep breath, my beloved. I invite Jan to offer that reading that she promised.
This piece is called Co-Regulation. It's written by Reverend Elizabeth Mount. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another. Generation to generation, we awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. And we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. In this spirit, let us worship together.
Good morning. Oh, we're almost there, y'all, but we don't want to leave on just how things have been, but how things can be. I want to say that, well, first, I forgot to do my visual description earlier for folks with visual impairment. So I am a short, fat, white-passing, multiracial, indigenous human with short brown hair. I'm wearing a white mask over my salt and pepper beard, a rainbow stole, and a purple shirt. Yeah, so, and I'm Reverend Sunshine. I use they, them pronouns. I want to say that I started out not as a lifelong UU, but as a UU who entered in as a young adult. And I began attending and joined my first congregation in Tucson, Arizona in 2000. And at that time, I was well aware of some of the history of that congregation The U Church of Tucson had a minister in the 1990s named Doug Strong. And Doug engaged in multiple relationships with married women in the congregation during his tenure. Was later removed from fellowship for breaking the law, essentially, and I don't need to go into those details. What we know about congregations with unacknowledged history of misconduct, where folks don't own it and work through the experience of the betrayal of the office of the person in charge, that they tend to repeat it. And so in this congregation, that's exactly what happened. In 2001, they called their next minister Reverend Roy Phillips, and in that year, I was hired in that congregation. He was my supervisor for 2 years. He engaged in bullying and constant emotional and spiritual deprecation of staff. I remember leaving staff meetings and individual supervision crying. And I remember the staff working together to try and report him, and yet every time we made that attempt, he had found ways to undermine that. We even had a process to complain to the board, and he intentionally made sure that the complaint process did not move forward. Unfortunately, we were never able to get him to acknowledge his wrongdoing. He eventually died of a heart attack while I was in seminary. But what I remember about that time is that the congregation was unsteady and unsure. And they have since engaged in a process of intentional healing, intentional work, because they did not want to keep repeating that behavior. A most recent story from that congregation is that actually one of my former interns, Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, is their current senior minister. She worked with me when I was an interim with a congregation with a history of misconduct and saw the work that I did and said, I want to do that. And so she's made that a professional calling to be a settled minister with churches who have histories of misconduct that has really affected the mission and the vision and the trust in the community. And it doesn't affect every community that deeply, but it did this one. And so recently they had a storytelling where everybody got to share their experiences of these stories in a way that wasn't, oh, look at all of these awful things that happened to us and we'll never ever be able to be better again, which is what I think people think will happen when we tell our stories, right? Like if we tell this really difficult, shameful, guilty, hard thing, it'll crush us. But instead, to tell it in such a way that it is held and cared for with love and grace and woven into the beauty of those times. To recognize that congregations who have gone through this are also survivors and thrivers, that there are things that they did that were positive and amazing even while those difficult things were going on. Even as Roy Phillips was engaging in these behaviors towards the staff, he helped that congregation connect with their border ministry, which led to them supporting No More Deaths, which has led to them doing all kinds of work to save lives in the desert. It isn't a zero-sum game when someone engages in abuse. And that means we have to see the wholeness of a picture. I also want to say that people engaged in misconduct, typically speaking, are everyday people. Every single person in this room is capable of engaging in misconduct. I'm capable of it. Reverend Kate's capable of it. Everybody here is. And I love the work of Dr. Marie Fortune, who actually trained both of us, who talks about thinking of people who engage in these sorts of behaviors between wanderers and predators. And only about 3 to 5% of people are predators, meaning that they're going to engage in some form of misconduct no matter what happens. Something going on in the brain, there's nothing we can do to stop it. But for the other 95%, they kind of wander into it. And we call it the 100 yeses. Because, you may be like, okay, now I'm interested in this person, and then you start to talk to them, that's the next yes. And then you start to intimate that you might be interested in them. And then the next yes is, yeah, I know you're married, but we should still hang out, right? Like, it isn't like you just go right from 0 to I'm having sexual misconduct, right? It doesn't work that way. And what we know about people who engage in this is that they often are experiencing things like divorce, loss of a loved one, financial unsteadiness, things that make them psychologically and spiritually unstable to begin with, and so therefore more at risk. And one of the things that often happens when we're in that cycle is that we forget to be humble. Because we are being humbled by the world around us, we seek power in whatever way we can. And that's when we're most at risk of doing things that are harmful to ourselves and to the people that we love. We see it time and time again. And so what matters is not so much trying to say you shouldn't do these things. We have to have those kinds of rules, and we do within the Ministers Association, and we have those covenants in our community. But we also need to build tools for resilience, for strength, so that folks aren't navigating these things alone. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature, and it is a constant balance between being codependent and hyper-independent. That there's some balance in between where we go back and forth between each other in care and support. We need self-care, yes. We also need community care. We need to be able to know that we have communities of folks that support us. I know for me, I have been meeting with the same group of ministers since 2013. We call ourselves the Righteous Mother Cluckers. It's an easy name to remember, and it's a lot of fun. We have all kinds of chicken items. My partner can attest to that. And the thing I love about these folks is they'll be like, Sunshine, you're doing that thing you do again. And they can call me in when I can't witness what's going on. You know that person in your life who can see you and call you and be like, hey, wait a minute, you're doing that thing, you know. Maybe you want to check in. Having community of care and support, being able to reach out to people and taking time to rest. One of the things I tell congregations is part of what you pay your minister for is navel gazing. Really. To look at the sky, to not do work, but to be thoughtful. Because how else are you going to get the interesting sermons if the person can't be thoughtful about it? If all of their weeks are getting all the tasks done, when are they going to have time to be brilliant? And I know Reverend Kate is brilliant, so there must be some time in there somewhere. To have clearly defined boundaries and expectations. One of my guidelines has always been, I will be friendly with congregants, but I cannot be your friend. I am your minister. I am in a caring relationship with you. And that comes first. Everything else comes second. To have covenants and guidelines for lay ministers and lay leaders. To have realistic expectations, and this one is tough. So I want to think about some of those male ministers that we have built ministry on. Oftentimes, it wasn't just the minister who was being called, it was the minister and their wife, right? And the wife was considered like free labor a lot of the time and would do a lot of things. And as we've started to see more women come into ministry, more trans folks like myself come into ministry, we're seeing that change. And there are a couple of things that have been true. So in the early 1990s, we saw a shift in Unitarian Universalism, where it went from mostly male, cisgender male ministers to mostly cisgender female ministers. And as that process was occurring, there were a few things that were true. One, the ministry stopped just being ministry of preaching and prophetic work, but also included pastoral care. It also included administration. It also includes supervision. It included all of these extra things. Just wear you out, right? I don't think it's an accident that women were starting to move into that and then more was expected. That sound like the patriarchy we were talking about at the beginning of the service, maybe? Yeah. So we want to disrupt that and have realistic expectations. What can your minister actually do? What can your lay leaders actually do? What do we need to let go of so that we don't make people sick? We need to make extra effort for care when there's high stress situations. You know, if your minister loses a loved one, give them some time off. Give them more time, not less. That's the kind of thing that actually prevents the misconduct, keeps the person humble. We don't need you for 2 weeks. Go take care of yourself. Nothing more humble than a church saying, we don't need you right now. Go take care of yourself, okay? It's important and it's healthy. And then also, of course, to play, have fun, you know, be righteous mother cluckers, play with glitter, stickers, do silly things, have board games, have fun. Do you all have fun together? Yeah. Well, at least one of you do. Do you all have fun together? Yeah. There it is. Thank you. I know, we're almost done, I promise. This is all about humility and interdependence. It's about weaving together relationship, to being listening partners, and to being focused on what's real and possible, and to keeping an eye on the things that actually can lead to deeper opportunities for misconduct. Things like silencing, things like urgency, things like trying to get it all done and not caring for each other or for self. I know you all have a lot of fun together. I know you do a lot of amazing work together. And I do hope you will continue to weave the stories of your past ministers and to think about the ways in which maybe trust was disrupted, how it may need to be repaired, so that you can be a community that is both humble and whole. And so your ministers and your leaders can be people that are humble and whole. May you cause good trouble, and if you ever need anything, I'm around. Thank you.
You know, it occurred to me, Reverend Sunshine, that the most important thing that Marie Fortune taught us, I think, is for those congregations that are successful and healthy in both in healing and wholeness and playfulness are the strong lay leaders. It's the strong lay leaders. That's the key element moving forward and also looking back. So thank you all for you beautiful, beautiful people. Yeah. I invite you to stand as you're able in body and spirit. The insert where you go is, this is brand new, but it's beautiful. You're going to love it. We're going to learn it as we go.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go.
I'm sorry, I'm going to disrupt, just like we did at the beginning. Y'all know where these words come from? It's come from the Torah, from Ruth and Esther, who were people who were escaping harm and trying to find family together from different worlds. And it's about being humble and being in relationship and community together. So I just wanted to give that piece of history because I forgot to do it at the end of my sermon part, and I should have. Thank you, Ellen, for letting me disrupt you. I apologize.
And we are not repeating the second part of this. Your people are my people. We don't repeat that until the very end.
Refugee. Where you go, I will go. Refugee.
Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go. Refugee. Where you go, I will go.
And your people are my people. Your people are mine.
Your people
I invite you to remain standing as we extinguish our chalice. The words are in our hearts as well as our program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forth, my good people, go forth with pride and humility in your hearts. Pride for who we are as a people of faith, and humility for knowing that we are with our neighbors, we are with our children, we are with one another, we are with the holy. Return again in love. Blessed be.